All right, welcome everybody this week. Welcome to American Hodl. Before we get started, just wanted to do a little bit of shilling. If you are a fan of Owls Lacrosse or the Owls Lacrosse show and want to show your support, pick up an Owls Lacrosse shirt, t-shirt, or hoodie from tftc.io/merch. Portion of the proceeds from that go to some sort of bird charity. I don't know anything about it. Don't ask me. Speaking of charities near and dear to our hearts, this show proudly supports Bent Marty's. Bent Marty's is an organization serving victims of Peyronie's disease. It's a problem I've never had to deal with, but if your Marty's is bent, Bent Marty's is here to help. Bent Marty's for Peyronie's disease sufferers. Ah! My guest today is the notorious American Hodl, philosopher, memer, gadfly, owner of 6.15 Bitcoins. American Hodl is a man for all seasons. Welcome to the show, sir.
It's good to be here. Al, you're a huge piece of shit, but everybody knows that.
Yay, the shoe fits, you know.
I just have to say, right before I got on the Zoom call with you, I shit my pants out. Just it was like liquid just coming right out. Not that any of you guys need to know that, but now I'm questioning. I'm like, is this coronavirus? Is this how it starts?
Well, it's good that Zoom does not have smell vision. I didn't go for the VR headset, so you don't get the full experience. So we should be safe. I don't know. Everybody got their antivirus software up and running. I heard that's how it works. So you,
Dude,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what do you want to talk about? Let's do it.
Well, first of all, should probably say that so far you've broken the Owls Lacrosse attendance record. Right now, I think we're dealing with somewhere over 20 people. So that is a new record for this very young show.
Let's not get too self-congratulatory, Al. Come on, move the show along, bro.
I'm trying to give you the credit here. I'm saying you broke the record, not me.
You're like, wow, look at Al's Lacrosse is growing like hotcakes. Okay, I'm just saying.
It's not easy being a Z-list celebrity. That's all I gotta say. at the rate we're going, I'm gonna have like over 500 followers by the end of next week. So, getting big time. So this is a pretty loose format today. I did not write down a ton of real strict questions, just kind of some general notions, and I figured we could run with that. But first question that I do have, though, which is a real question, there is a lot of speculation about your identity. So to ask you point blank, are you in fact Owls Lacrosse?
No, obviously, because we're two separate people.
This is going to be shocking to a lot of people because the accusation has been made.
I'm actually offended by the accusation that I'm you, because I would run that account so much dirtier. It would be so much more off kilter than the way you run it. Can I tell you, I'm very jealous of the Owls Lacrosse thing, because I thought Marty was saying Al the whole time too. And then as soon as he was like, no, it's Owls, I was like, oh, that'd be hilarious if there was a real like owl somewhere. And then you appeared, man.
Yeah. Well, that's, what's amazing by it is I think everybody had the same misconception. So it just really clicked with the people, shall we say. I ended up making it in the middle of the night. I was messing around in my home office and just heard him say that. And I was like, well, I thought it was Owls, and everybody else thought it was Owls too. So I decided, well, it'd be really funny if I did that. And it got a lot of attention. Marty was a good sport about it. I think my very first tweet was "fuck Marty Bent," which he retweeted, and that was the beginning of what has become this, which is not at all what I expected. Where I expected it to go.
I'm just saying I would have been banned several times if I was running the account. So you got you got to go harder, man.
I've been finding recently that I'm having trouble staying in character. Because as much as it is fun to be Al and to kind of have that blank check to say anything you want about anybody, sometimes I have real opinions about things too, and I get tired of switching accounts all the time. Plus, I seem to get a lot more engagement saying things as Al than I do with my other account. So I've been having trouble staying in character. I actually issued an apology for that. I think it was either last night or this morning. I put something out about that. So I will endeavor to be more of a dirtbag in the future, but it's hard to not talk about things that are on my mind with so much going on in the world.
Bitcoin Juicy was like, hey Hodl, are you walking to lose weight? Listen, you little fucks, I'm not fat, okay? I'm not fat. I yeah, that dox was like the worst dox because I was like, oh man, I finally realized at that point, I was like, oh, I'm allergic to alcohol. Like, because I'd been drinking all day. I was like, yeah, my face looks fucking puffy as shit. And I'm wearing a big baggy hoodie. I was like, this was not a good way to dox.
I have that problem when it comes to wine. Actually, it does. I have huge issues when I don't take any histamine with wine. Gets me all red faced and feel like shit and get migraines and throw up off of like half a glass. It's good times.
God damn it, Al. Let's talk about Bitcoin, dude.
I
Give the
know.
people what they want, man.
I know they don't want to hear about my pussy ass wine allergy. So I thought the best topic to get you talking on, especially in light of recent events, which you may or may not be tired of talking about, but what does the intolerant minority mean to you, and why is it so important to Bitcoin?
This is a big question. It's just like we live in this super pussified world, man, where the weirder things get and the more like progressive they get, we're just supposed to be okay with it, you know? If a tranny shows up to your kid's school and wants to read them nursery rhymes, you're supposed to clap for that and celebrate diversity. Like, it just feels like we're being pushed in this really weird, like, what's the agenda? I can't even figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. It's not just, you know, liberalism. It's everything. It's like the nudging state, basically. They're pushing us to be, you know, it's like we're frogs boiling water, and every day we give up more and more of our freedoms. Like, look at this coronavirus thing. Like, you know, how quick do we adapt? I was just at Costco and every fucking person is wearing a mask. How quick do we adapt to these changing social norms? It's like immediately, right? And so I think the intolerant minority in Bitcoin is just like, listen, this is what Bitcoin is, and it shall never fucking change ever over our dead fucking bodies. It's a lot like the founding of America and the American Constitution, because Bitcoin's code is just code, and it can easily be changed with the stroke of the keyboard, right? Like, and in Bitcoin, we have decentralization. It's not so easy. But if you nudge enough people, if you take like the B.F. Skinner approach and you control a thing by controlling that thing's environment, yeah, you can implant the idea that we need to lift the hard cap, or we need to do this, we need to do that, to change Bitcoin and make it something that you can co-opt, basically. And so the intolerant minority is just like the founding fathers, whereas this is the founding document, the Constitution, and no, fuck yourself. We will not change a goddamn thing for you. This is the Constitution. And, you know, we've seen how that plays out in America, right? 300 years later, almost. And the Constitution is basically just a piece of paper. It means nothing now. So at least with the decentralization factor and Bitcoin being code that's on everyone's computer, at least it's like easier to hard fork Bitcoin. It's very hard to hard fork America. The last time we tried to hard fork America, it was called the Civil War. And it didn't go so well for either side. It was, you know, there was atrocities all over the place. So like, this gives you a peaceful opt out. And yeah, it's just super important to be intolerant as fuck about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the thing that's going to save us. Like, Bitcoin fixes this. Bitcoin is the new America. Bitcoin is the new city upon a hill. So
which one is America Classic and which one is America Satoshi's Vision?
I think Bitcoin is America Classic, if I'm being honest. Like, the foundational values and principles that are in Bitcoin are much more in line with what the founding fathers had in mind for America. The current version of America is nothing like what America was supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I agree with the analogy, especially from the sense that the founding of America should not have worked. If you look at that on paper, there's absolutely no way that that works out and those guys win and don't get all hung, and it's just England forever.
You can draw on a direct analogy too with think about the guys like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, you know, not Hamilton, but Burr, fucking John Adams. These were wealthy aristocrats, right? They had a lot to fucking lose. They could have gone along and let England do its thing and been the good little lords and ladies they were supposed to be under, you know, British rule. But they were like, fuck you.
Yeah.
This is America, bitch. We do what the fuck we want. You're all the way across the fucking sea. Come over here and take it from me. And that's the same mentality that's in Bitcoin, which is like, these are my fucking Bitcoins. Go fuck yourself. You're not going to take these away from me. And you know, leave me the fuck alone. Like that's the foundation of freedom too.
It shouldn't have come as far as it did, both America and Bitcoin. I mean, if you look at Bitcoin, there's so many areas it could have gone wrong, especially when you look at what happened with other shitcoins, adding functionality without thinking about the consequences, or personalities getting too big and having too much power, and people just kind of going along with it because they say so. But Bitcoin has sort of beaten those odds in a way that, you know, if you looked at it on paper and said, well, how's that ever going to get to that point? It just doesn't seem likely that it would have happened.
Well, yeah, but part of that is because the paper that we're reading is fraudulent. So,
Yeah.
I mean, all the experts that we're supposed to be listening to, the media we consume, the fucking food we eat, the air we breathe, like it's all fraudulent. We're living in this, and I don't mean that as like some sort of a safety and fiat food thing. What I mean is like we are being told this is dogma. It's all around us all the time. This is water, and we fucking swim in it, and we don't even know that we're in it, you know? And so I think about, like, I was just listening to the What the Fuck Happened in 1971 guys on Peter McCormick's show. And I was thinking about Ben Prentice, who, you know, put together that site with Heavily Armored Clown. And I don't want to dox Ben or anything, but like I've talked about on the phone. Ben just works like a service industry job, and he's doing first principles thinking analysis on global macroeconomics that is more accurate and high level than people that are in the ivory tower. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like when you start a revolution, do you want the fucking phonies who have for years been sucking up to England and who all they know how to do is be part of the bureaucracy? Or do you want guys like Ben who are smart, quick, with reality, see what's actually happening and can fuck shit up?
Yeah. I talked to Ben about that a while ago too, and he and I have a background in common in some ways, and it's a pleasant surprise. And there are aspects of this that I think I do want to get into later, but the fact that you're getting this original and solid thought from quarters that are not the approved opinion makers, that are coming from blue check world, for lack of a better term, is a beautiful thing. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you're getting better opinion, or more honest or more accurate opinion out of that. One last thing about the founding of America analogy, you know, talking about these guys were aristocrats who could have been just living these really easy, luxurious lives before they rebelled. You know, I think it's fair to say that most of the push and development for Bitcoin comes from within the United States, and that's nothing against those of you who are not American in Bitcoin. Satoshi most likely was American, but there's debate about that, I guess. But there's just it's a weird irony, you know, when people look back on this in 500 years to think, wait, why did the country that had the global reserve currency and all of the power that entailed and all of the ability to bend the rules that entailed, those were the guys who were working on it's so weird that they were undermining their own status on that. And I think
that's an American ideal too, right? I mean, we all grow up learning that at some point, if your government becomes too oppressive, it is not only your right, it is your duty as an American citizen to overthrow that government, to undermine that government, to supplant that government. And like even the founding fathers, like that's why we have the Second Amendment. Second Amendment is not for home defense. The Second Amendment is because, like, I always hear this argument that, you know, oh, if there's gonna be a war, the government has drones and they have tanks and blah, blah, blah. If there's going to be a war for America between the government and the citizens, it's going to be a fucking ground war fought with AK-47s.
Yeah, well, look at Afghanistan. Like the people who say that, it's like, where have you been the past 15 years? You think that ended in a week?
Yeah. Have you not seen all the ground wars that have been happening since Vietnam? Are you fucking retarded? Like that's how it works. So that's the reason why we have the Second Amendment. The founding fathers were smart enough. They had the foresight to see that while, yes, things were beautiful and utopian during the early formation of their country, that the rot had already set in. And I think we'd be foolhardy to think that's not the case in Bitcoin. While Bitcoin is the most beautiful thing that we've ever seen, and it fixes all the problems of the modern world, we don't know what rot currently exists. and what we might, what our ancestors, what the seventh generation might have to do to maintain the principles. And so I think having the ability to fork off, having the ability to, like, I don't know, lately I've been thinking about protocol ossification, and is it really super beneficial? Because I don't know, it's a tough one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there will be a lot of aspects of it which will become ossified. As far as making it some sort of official thing, no, I think, and it's going to sound cheesy that I keep with this analogy, but if you look at the Constitution, it's like a semi-ossified protocol where the Constitution is meant to be sacrosanct, but there is a process by which it can be amended. It's also intentionally a difficult process. It's meant to be something that is really hard to do and is only used in extreme circumstances. So, there may
Right.
be.
I think the problem though is, like, you keep piling laws on top. Basically, you keep piling commits on top of that protocol, and then you end up with some sort of Frankenstein fucking system where, I mean, how many laws do you think we have on the books here in
Oh,
America?
yeah.
We probably have 100,000 laws on the books, right? Like, I basically walk through my life every day thinking I'm doing multiple illegal things, right? But I'm just like a regular, everyday American citizen who is trying his best to abide by the law, so I don't get fucking put in a cage, But like every day, I feel like I'm definitely breaking law. We live in Frankenstein world, and that benefits the people who are in power because they can just trump up any charge on you and haul you in and fucking put you in the stockade, basically.
Yeah, there is I think it's an essay somewhere out there. It's called, I may be butchering it, but it's called something like Five Felonies a Day. And it's written by a former prosecutor with the idea of, like, look, if I wanted to bust you for something, I don't care who you are, I could bust you for something every day. You're
Yep,
doing something.
exactly.
I
And
kind of wonder.
that's
Good.
not America, right?
Yeah,
Like, the Constitution is very short. There's there's not a lot of amendments to the Constitution,
yeah,
and most of the amendments are good amendments.
yeah. Well, that's where I think the analogy of the protocol comes in, which is,
Yeah,
here are the principles of the base layer. If you want to start doing other things, maybe that's a layer 2, layer 3 discussion instead of changing base protocol. There may be things that, as time goes on, it has to be discussed. Just like in the Constitution, we made some changes to things. Maybe quantum computing 50 years from now or less brings in something that we need to make really serious changes to the base layer to keep things alive. But there could be a process for that. But it also, you don't want to be like Ethereum, where it's like every time somebody has a new idea, you just call up one guy and they change the base layer, and eventually nobody can run a node anymore because everybody's running different. Like, it's insane.
yeah.
And that's another one of those, just by the skin of our teeth, maybe we've avoided that. It could have gone that way in the way people wanted to run things in previous years. But it's becoming more and more psychologically ossified that we don't do things that way. And there's maybe a Lindy effect to that too, where it sticks like that.
I
Um,
think I think 21 million is the big one. It's
yeah,
like, if you're ever to break 21 million, well, then you don't have Bitcoin. And a large part of being the intolerant minority is about protecting that one variable, because that one variable changes everything. It gives us the world's most accurate, not only store of value, but measurement of value, because we've never had a store of value without inflation. So what does it mean to live in a truly deflationary world? We just don't know. And I think a lot of us have the inkling that it's going to be fucking beautiful. And that's why we want to go there, because deflation is good for individuals. It's not good for institutions who want to co-opt individuals, but it's really good for an individual who lives their life. I mean, think about, like, why do normal people, and this goes into like misallocation of capital and all that, but why do normal people need to participate in the stock market? I think most people, thinking from a first principles vantage point, would say, if you go to work hard, are good at your job, provide a service that other people like, you should have the ability to store your time and your wealth basically under your digital mattress, right? Like, you should have the ability to store your wealth on your own and not have it debased and not have it stolen or taken from you.
yeah. And as it is now, if you're not
And
running
so
to get ahead,
Bitcoin gives us that, right?
yeah, you're right now. If you're not running to get ahead,
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
actively falling behind.
It's like the Atlas thing that happened the other day, where I gave that guy $100 and
Yeah.
everybody piled on, and then we got that guy to a full Bitcoin. I was talking to him in DM, and I was like, hey man, all right, you're gonna really, about your OPSEC, you're not gonna want to tell anybody, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh yeah, dude, I'm from Colombia. They would fucking kill me. And so it's like, we just transferred this guy wealth, and no one can take it from him. Nobody there even knows he has it. It's a secret between him and a bunch of kind strangers on the internet. And it's also like a reverse Cantillon effect. We basically, if the Federal Reserve is picking winners and losers, well, so are Bitcoiners. We took a guy who was supposed to be a loser under the Federal Reserve System, and we made him a fucking winner in one day. Because Bitcoiners are not only like, I love Bitcoiners because they're assholes with hearts of gold. Like the intolerant minority, people hear that word intolerance, they're like, oh my God, these guys must be such bad guys. I bet they're racist. And it's like, fuck yourself. Okay, listen, I don't have to be overly tolerant to your abhorrent behavior. I just don't have to be. In fact, I don't think that's a good thing for anybody to be, is to tolerate shitty behavior or negative behavior,
Yeah. There's this system now almost of it's like shibboleths. It's, you have these little sayings that you have to do, and you go through the ritual of saying these words and pledging fealty to these certain systems, and that takes precedence over who you really are. And how, to be tolerant, does that mean that I say these PC terms, or does that mean I
Oh,
support a world in which you really can have differences of opinion? Which,
I'll give you a good story about this, man. So my buddy is a super conservative Trump guy, yada yada yada, right? He's exactly who you picture when I say MAGA. We were up at the Bay Area at a genomics company, and we were shooting a video for them. And this was like days after Trump won the election in 2016, right? And he, on the plane right up there, he's just gloating, so happy. And then we get there, and all these bitches who work in Silicon Valley are like, I can't believe this. Can you believe this? And he's being paid yeah, he's being paid handsomely to be there. So he shuts his fucking mouth. I mean, he doesn't want, this is the client, and he's the subcontractor. So he doesn't want to rock the boat or anything, but it just shows like he subjugated himself right then and there. And I think being, for money, for cash, because these people have the cash and he wanted the cash. So he shut his fucking mouth.
yeah,
If we lived in a world where he was a little freer, maybe he would have so much cash, he'd just show up and be like, you know what, you're dumb. Trump is awesome. Fuck yourself. And then walk out.
yeah,
Like, I think in all ways, big and small, we're all making those compromises for cash, basically, to be closer to the money spigot. I mean, that's like you said, it's like basically think about the WHO and the mask thing, the CDC and the mask
oh
thing.
yeah. I mean,
A month
biggest
ago,
red
it
pill
was the Surgeon General was out there tweeting and being like, you shouldn't wear masks. Healthcare workers need them. And that was the thing you had to recite to be part of the in-group. And now it's, you need to wear masks. Everybody, why aren't you wearing a mask, right? And
yeah.
that's the thing you have to recite to be part of the in-group. And the timing of these things matter. Because if you jump off sides early, your tribe is going to fucking hammer you,
Yeah, there is, I think, a tendency to keep one's mouth shut. I've done it before in social situations where I think people are saying something that's absolutely ridiculous, but I'm not trying to start a war with somebody else's friends at dinner, and you keep quiet about it. But I think in the business world, that's become very common, and it bleeds out of the academic world, and it's gotten more and more extreme. But look at some of the consequences of that now. Look at our relationship with China, where a few months ago we were getting angry at guys in the NBA because they were kind of pretending like they didn't know what Hong Kong was, and then all of a sudden, the virus hit, and we had to seriously start looking. It's not cute anymore. It's like they're lying to us about whether this is human to human, or whether or not they shipped these masks to us and they're really holding them back. And that, for years we've been happy to keep our mouth shut about that and let the money roll in, because it was cheaper to make all that stuff over there. It was cheaper to make our drugs over there. But that stuff, I don't know. I think some of those compromises, you make them a little bit at a time, and it starts to feel normal, and then you go to the next level and it starts to feel normal, and pretty soon something really bad is happening and you're just treating it as normal. um,
Yeah.
and now we've seen to a certain extent one of the things that can cause, and it's not pretty. So we're all sitting home, watching this on Zoom now. um, so despite your combative reputation, which is, I think you relish to a certain degree, you are a family man at heart. I think it's known that you recently became a father again. Um, how does that inform? And it obviously does. You talked about this, but how does that inform your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Well, I'll tell you, it makes me want to double down on being fucking intolerant because I now have, little people that I'm responsible for, right? And this is generation one of the 7 generations to follow, right? And so if I am going to get to the 7 generations and have this Bitcoin be passed down from them, I can't have them being affected by a dysfunctional culture. I just can't have it, right? So like I have to, if I'm going to send them to regular school and stuff, they're little right now, so I don't have to make that choice yet. But if I am going to send, I basically have to spend a bunch of extra time myself counter programming them at home, because the things that they're going to be learning in school are not accurate to reality. And they may teach them how to be good little drones and go in and, be close to the money spigot, become one of the professional managerial class who, flies around to different parts of the world, has no real home base, has no real moral code, and makes $400,000 a year and thinks that they're better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Which I meet a lot of those people in coastal cities, and I fucking despise them because they have no principles, no backbone. Yeah, you might be smart, but what are you doing with it? This is like in America, we send our best and brightest into finance, right? To figure out ways to cheat the poor and the working class and the middle class. This is why we're losing footing in the world, is because in China, they send their best and brightest into STEM fields. They're going hard in manufacturing, robotics, technology, science, medicine. We're going hard on creating new synthetic financial products. That's the sign of a degenerate culture. And so when I think about my children, I think about the world they're growing up in, I just think that I want to protect them first and foremost from all that's going around, but I also want to instill those values of intolerance in them and just tell them, look around. This is not normal. That's not normal. This sort of attitude doesn't benefit you. Acting this way won't benefit you.
Yeah.
You need to fucking reach your human potential. Like, don't just go be someone's bitch for money. You're a fucking slave if you do that. And I don't care if you go home to $1 million house and you drink a $60 bottle of wine every night. You're still a fucking slave. I think that's the hard thing for people in human history, is like we're now reached this zone where we're all slaves who are like so well taken care of that we just get comfortable, and then we get complacent, and then we don't do anything. Like,
Yeah,
it's
it
hard to
reminds me
riot when your belly's full.
like
You know?
Joe Pantoliano in The Matrix, where he just wants to go back into the Matrix and eat a good steak and live a luxurious life, even though he knows
Exactly.
it's a lie.
When we're living in the matrix right now, because you look around at the people who are, like the NPC meme, right? Who are just spouting what the powerful are telling them to spout, left and right. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, if you're on the Trump side of things, you're just as big a jackass as the people who voted for Hillary Clinton, right? Like, I'm enjoying the Trump circus also,
Yeah.
but I don't believe he's fixing things or doing anything. It's a fun sort of like burn it all down, but it's not actually doing anything. And so what I'm saying is basically, when you interact with these people, these NPCs in real life, you realize that it's just like that speech he gives in the Matrix, where he's like, these people are our enemies. Like, they're the people we're trying to save, yeah, but they're also our enemies because they're plugged in and they're so dependent on the system, they will fucking fight to protect it. That's where we're at right now. Especially, you keep walking down that path with UBI, with more social welfare programs, both at home and abroad. You're going to make people even deeper slaves, right? They're going to.
I think
It's a despondent time that we live in.
that's one of the things that let's say pro UBI, pro MMT, even though it doesn't have to be the same thing, but I think what a lot of those people don't understand is it's not, the opposition to that is not because I want to be mean to you. The opposition to it is because I don't want that future for any of us. Because once that becomes the norm, that's slavery by another name. You just don't realize it yet.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it's Wally World. It's like all the fucking fat people on their fucking scooters and
yeah,
Wally. That's what we will become if
yeah,
we go down that road. And when I talk to people who are cultural elites, and I do have friends that are high up in different places, humble brag, bitches. But I hate the way they think and the way they act, and they're good people otherwise. But this elitist attitude of I'm so fucking smart, I'm so much better. This tends to be a left-wing thing too, but it's like I'm so much better than other people, right? Like these dumbasses, they don't know how fucking great I am and how life works and how to fucking get get yield in the stock, whatever it is, right?
mhm,
That attitude is communism, because you're just like, I'm gonna plan it for you idiots.
yeah,
And it's like that paper, the cognitive hubs and spatial redistribution.
yeah.
Every time I tell that to upper level liberal elite people who are in the Bay Area or in Washington DC, they're like, yeah, what's wrong with that? Sounds
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, to me, it
They see
sounds,
no problem. They see no problem with that.
which is amazing because to me, it almost sounds like a parody of like, oh, they didn't really say this. Like somebody who's just parodying them or is trying to slander them is saying that they said this, and then you realize like, oh no, this actually got said. Um, there's
Yeah.
there's kind of a strange convergence happening too between what would have been the academic left and also sort of the let's call it the upper middle class, the white collar middle class, college educated, where there's almost an open disdain now for anyone who isn't them. And it used to
Oh,
be a whole lot of lip service to the working man and the blue collar and all that. And it's now, because the working man didn't vote the way they wanted last time, it's now just like, well, fuck those people. It's like, oh wait, I thought
well,
you
who
loved the
was
working man. Like,
who is proffering the theory that because it's now socially unacceptable to go after poor blacks, that people
yeah,
go after
that
poor
he was
whites?
saying that last night. Let me pull up his name so he gets credit because I don't want to act like I didn't.
Well,
That,
it's very true though. While you're looking that up, I'll expand on it. But basically, somebody on Twitter was in the thread me and Al were attached to was saying that ever since it became socially unacceptable to deride poor black people, it became socially acceptable to deride rednecks, right? And to tell people that they were, and so their whole moral framework and fabric is, and their cultural value set is based on not being one of them rednecks over there, right? I talk to these college educated people who are like, dinks, double income, no kids, who both have fucking master's level college degrees, who don't have any children, who are like 38. Their life consists of going to like fucking Barcelona and shit. They don't ever plan to have any children, nothing, right? And they look down on people who are working class, who, like, let's say the father drives a truck and the mother works at the local school or at Applebee's or whatever the fuck, right? They look down on those people for having children. They go, can you imagine having children without being able to financially take care of them? What if they don't go to college? It's like, well, then they can go into fucking HVAC, bitch, and make more money than your fucking
yeah,
ass.
it's
I
not.
can't stand this attitude.
Yeah, the just to give him his due, it's at Grassmaster is the guy who made the point. Um, and I do agree with what he was saying. I in talking to some people recently about this stuff, there is, I mean, the open disdain and hatred for these people that they've never even met, um, and and what they've built them up to be in their heads, and these people should just be, booted from the country, or they're the worst human beings on earth, and all that. So there is a commonality there, I think, with there's a thought of what some of racism was or is in the old South. It served for some of the white underclass to give you somebody that you could point to and go, I'm better than them. Regardless of who you actually were and how you acted, you could just say, I'm better than them. And it was automatic status conferred onto you, regardless of what you had actually done or who you really were. And there does seem to be there's a similar feel that's really disturbing to me, that it's like, we're better than these people because we're in this class. Um, and it's just bizarre to see it coming from quarters where they used to be all about, oh, I'm for the little man, and it's starting to look like, well, maybe it was just
Dude,
for the power that you got by saying you were for the little man.
one of the biggest examples is journalism, is the entire field of journalism. Journalism used to be a pursuit I know this because my father was a media executive for a bunch of newspapers across the country. And journalism was always, especially when I was growing up, the reporters I would interact with were always working class guys or from working class backgrounds who hated people in power. They just fucking absolutely hated them, had open disdain for them, and they were looking to bring them down. And that's good. That is the function of journalism,
What's the
right?
old saying about it? Journalism is supposed to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable.
Right. It's so, yeah, I've heard different variations of that. But now look at what journalism has become. Journalism is just the disseminating mouthpiece for the current narrative du jour
Yeah,
to get all people in the proper in their proper little lines, right?
yeah.
Like, it's so stupid, man. I was at a park the other day, and my daughter wanted to, get some pine cones on the other side of, they had the park wrapped off, and there was some caution tape or whatever. And so I just hopped the caution tape, and me and her went and fucking got some pine cones. And this guy, the security guard, honked at me from his little security mobile, and so I just flipped him off. And then he sat there glaring at me for about 3 minutes, decided I wasn't going to take his shit, and then drove away. But I was like, how many people did this motherfucker honk at who just like willingly, like, we're like, oh well, there's a magic yellow piece of tape around this piece of equipment. I guess we shouldn't use it.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off. There were no other children there, right? It's not
Watching in
it's not
California, watching
unsafe.
police go out and like get paddleboarders who are 1,000 feet off the beach by themselves, not near another human being. Now you're going to run those guys down and come into contact with them. Did you just help the situation or make it worse?
Right. And
It's
we
not
can we
about
can
that.
be we can be disdainful towards people for acting in these ways, but the truth is we all used to act in these ways too before we found Bitcoin.
Yeah,
And Bitcoin has now given us the ability to not have to be the rat in the cage who's waiting for the sugar water, and you're willing to fight and kill other rats to get to the sugar water first.
yeah,
Like, we don't have to do that anymore because I have wealth secured on my own by myself, fucking
yeah,
DIY, man. And if the Bitcoin price keeps increasing, well, I'm beholden to no one. I'm barely beholden to anyone now because I'm just like, fuck it. Especially my business stopped making money when coronavirus happened. So I was really like, fuck it. I was like, all right. And so now I'm just like, every day I'm trying to amp myself up more and more to just be like, say what you really fucking think, man. Say how you really fucking feel. We're all fucking dying anyway. Like, don't you want to be the type of person who fucking builds the future, is bedrocked in hard truths and reality? So if you think you found a truth, defend it. Defend it to the fucking death. Because if you let somebody convince you that a lie is the truth, they have just made you their bitch.
yeah,
And now you serve them.
yeah. You are mentally a slave to them at that point. I mean, that's my hope for what, and I tend to go to the darker view of this right now, but the bright side view of what the Bitcoin citadel will be is there's going to be a cadre of people in society who are beholden to no one but what they think is the truth, and people who are really used to fighting for what they think is the truth against the opinions of whatever the mainstream is telling them or pressuring them to, and they don't have to care anymore because they've got money, they've got Bitcoin, and they don't need to bow down, because they need to eat, because they need to make a living. Um, but
Totally.
something that kind of brings together the different concepts of this, establishment and family and all that. I tweeted out the other day that this thing with the Harvard homeschooling conference has really kind of radicalized
Oh,
me in
right.
a way. I don't have a lot of, or I didn't have a lot of strong feelings about homeschooling prior to this. I, like you, I'm a new dad for the first time instead of the second time. But so I hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about it before. I went to a private school when I was very young, and then from about second grade on, I went to public school. And I just kind of assumed that my kids would follow that pathway. But looking at this now, you know the disdain these people have, that they think that these are, your kids aren't your kids, they belong to the state. This guy's saying that the parent-child relationship is created by the state, making that a legal thing. Like, this is insane, and
Yeah,
this
that's
is,
fucking insanity.
yeah, and it's really, it's such a distillation some of these ideas that lurk behind this sort of establishment blue check world. I know I keep
Well,
using.
this goes into that conversation of bottom up versus top down, I think, because listen, in a bottom up world, there are going to be a lot of things you don't fucking agree with, a lot, because you have to give people freedom. So, in a world where everyone homeschools, yeah, there's going to be a lot of kids who learn fucking dumb shit and end up as fucking dumb adults that we have to deal with. That's true. So you can use that point to say, well, we should not homeschool. No, that's wrong, because you're trying to control people and tell them what they can and can't do. Why are you trying to do that? Because the more out of control they are, or let's put it a different way, the more out from under your thumb they are, they're not in your control anymore. Well, then you have nothing to, bully them with. You have nothing to make them do what you want because they're free. So of course that's why you would want to fucking outlaw homeschooling, and you would use the argument like you have disdain for people who, grow up dumb. And
Yeah.
and there are, listen, there are a lot of homeschoolers out there. I've been going down this homeschool rabbit hole, and I think something people don't understand about homeschooling is it's very different post-internet. Like the
Oh yeah.
homeschooling I remember as a child growing up in Arkansas was crazy fundamentalism, and people being taught that Jesus and dinosaurs lived at the same time and all sorts of retarded shit, right? And so, yeah, that's basically child abuse to teach children that.
Yeah.
But I think post-internet, there are a lot of homeschoolers that are like us, who are smart people who see what's happening, see the way their children are being molded by the system to be these good little worker drones and not question what they're told, go along to get along, yada, yada, yada. It's like, you have a little kid right now. They're fucking wild animals, dude. They don't come into this world with all that programming. They come into the world like, I'm here to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. And like, I want to let my little girls like run wild and like be themselves. So me and the wife have been talking about homeschooling more and more. And I think there's going to be a lot of social stigma that surrounds that. And, even a person like me, I'm able to go, if you are a neighbor of mine or something and you're giving me social stigma for homeschooling, I'm able to be like, look at us. We live in the same neighborhood. I'm smarter than you are. I'm as educated as you are. What's the problem with me homeschooling my children?
Yeah.
And then even still, they look at you with a blank look and they're like, well, they're not being socialized. And you're like, what do you mean? They have brothers and sisters. They go to play dates. It's like, shut up. Shut
Yeah.
the fuck up. Stop telling people what to do with their fucking lives.
And it seems like it's a lot of it is telling them to do for the sake of telling them to do. It's like it's not really about the schooling. It's about sending home the message that no, we are in charge. It's our world, and we allow you to live in it. I think.
Also, think about this. Humans are fucking weirdos. And so a lot of these elite liberals like never have children, right? Because they're anti-natalist and they spend their whole life seeking pleasure. And then at the end of that fucking rainbow, you find out it was meaningless. And then you're old and you're dying, like the woman who was proposing the Harvard homeschool ban. And you need a legacy, right? Like you need some
Yeah.
sort of legacy because you never had children of your own. And now you're fucking all dried up and your vagina has sand in it. And it has like a fucking caution tape around
Hate
it,
when
just
that
like all the
happens.
parks due to coronavirus. Uh, and so you want to leave your legacy on other people's children. It's like, no, no, no. Especially as people who have children, it's like, you can suck every inch of my dick. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Fuck yourself.
And I think the world of coronavirus is going to accelerate a lot of things. That's one of them, because all of a sudden homeschooling went from this fringe thing to something that almost literally everybody is doing. And now they may not continue to do it, but everybody's had a taste of it at least. So this idea now that if you do this, you're some kind of freak show, you know, everybody's been there now. It's like, well, did you feel like a freak show when you were homeschooling earlier? So I don't
Right.
know. I don't know if I will. Ideally, I would like to find a school that I can believe in and not have to homeschool myself. But
I think that's my ideal scenario too. Something like 100 children and the parents chip in and everybody teaches everybody's kids, like that. Something like that would be my ideal
yeah,
scenario as well. Like I don't want to actually like have to sit them all down for lesson plans at our kitchen table every day.
yeah. Um, and it's part of this bigger thing though of, well, who has the right to do that, or are you qualified? And I don't know, there's a lot of credentialism now that is it's superseding whether or not you actually have ability and knowledge. It's
Hmm.
basically just, I have the credential, I have the approval. I was thinking when I was making some notes for this the other night, um, Christopher Hitchens, back when he was alive, obviously, because you don't say much when you're dead, but he had a quote about, I think he was talking about the Daily Show or something like that, and he was saying, there's this mindset of watching these people in the audience who are, they're laughing at things not because the joke was funny, but they're laughing at it to demonstrate to other people that they're in the club, that they're the right sort who gets the joke. Um, and
Yeah,
it,
this is that idea that the left can't meme, because when you look at the left's memes, they're fucking trash. they're not, I've never laughed at any of them.
yeah, well, you can't get too, I guess, morally prim and proper about it. It's like I think a lot of what used to be considered the sort of right wing Southern church lady mentality has now become left news media Hollywood mentality. Like, oh, you can't do that, you can't say that. And if you're coming from that place of, oh, that's just, oh, that's so terrible, you can't make funny memes from that. Like, you have to be a little more lighthearted about stuff. And
Well, yeah, I mean, ever since we lost religion, everybody's become a fucking puritanical zealot about whatever their cause du jour is, right? It's like, oh, vaccines are poisonous, or, oh, hey, man, there's birth control pills in the water. Do you know about that? It's reducing our testosterone, or, oh, you can't eat fucking genetically modified foods, or, it's just, listen, I get it. Like, I'm down with some of that, but to be a religious zealot about something, you better make sure that it's like worthy of the cause of dying for it.
yeah,
I'll be totally honest. I'm a religious zealot about Bitcoin, right? And the more I've actually like gone, because I went to Catholic school and all that, and was raised in the faith and used to read the Bible and yada yada yada. And then I went away from it and I went hardcore atheist, and then I went agnostic, and now I'm much more agnostic, sort of just like whatever, who cares? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, whatever. But the more I get to that, I keep thinking, well, like I have this religious wiring, and I keep using Bitcoin to supplant it, which,
yeah,
like, if you've read the Bible, is one of the things you're fucking not supposed to do.
yeah.
Because it's literally a fucking golden calf that I'm idolizing. And so I just keep thinking, well, maybe we should just go back to God, like maybe that's the right answer for everybody, because it's at least a fixed focal point. Like, can you think of any fixed focal points in our society anymore at all? There are none.
Yeah. But what we haven't lost is that factionalism, tribalism, and it just
Right.
ramps up and up and up until we're fighting over who the hell knows what. Um,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
I
I
will admit, like, being a religious zealot for Bitcoin, I do kind of think it is like a super worthy cause. And the only thing that gives me pause about it is the part where I directly benefit from it. Because then I think, all right, am I just deluding myself?
do I only care about this because, yeah, because
Right. Because it's going to make me rich. Yeah,
exchange rate. Well, it helps.
exactly.
It helps. And
Exactly.
if there wasn't if we didn't have things like the halving and increasing exchange rate against the dollar, it probably wouldn't survive. But
Exactly.
you could argue that those are healthy, innate, even if not healthy, they're innate parts of human nature. So it's being done in accordance with human nature instead of trying to wedge square pegs into round holes because I think it's better that way. Um, but not to be like
Exactly.
Jordan Peterson, but I think some of what you were talking about
I
is
think I lost you. Al, are you there? Oh, there you
yeah.
go.
You hear me?
I just lost you for a
Oh,
second.
okay. My signal's not always so great, but the
Get it
there
together,
is,
Al. Jesus Christ.
in whether it's in religious text or in our like fictional archetypes in literature and that sort of thing, there are ideas that we've been talking about that go back way, way, way before we ever had these thoughts. And
Yeah,
not
exactly.
using, I'm going to use my authority to force you all to be my automatons because it's for your own good. I mean, that's all over the place going back. However, I mean, relatively recently, historically, you see that in like Lord of the Rings, right? Where it's like, I could take the ring and I would mean to do good with it, but I would end up becoming the tyrant over everybody. But you can go back into I'm not a theologist by any means, but you go back into the Bible itself, and there's this idea of, well, God gives you free will. Well, God could just like make you be a little remote control robot and do exactly what God thinks is right, but that misses the point. And there's some wisdom encoded in that, which is like you can't become the dictator, the tyrant, just because you think it's for people's own good. You have to give people the right to screw up. Even
Well, all authority is fraudulent, right? Like, because you're just another person. You don't have authority over me. I can do whatever the fuck I want. The only place where it becomes wrong is when I am harming another, you know. But until I've harmed somebody, you have no authority over me. Even when I've harmed somebody, technically you have no authority over me, but society, you know, sees fit that you need to be taken care of at that point. And I think I'm okay with that, obviously. But like, it reminds me of this joke Joe Rogan has where it's like, in order to be king of the dumbs, all you have to do is basically be a con man, where it's like a bunch of dumb people are sitting around and they're like, I don't know what's going on. Do you know what's going on? I don't know what's going on. And then one guy is just like, I'm pretty sure I think I know what's going on, you know?
yeah,
And that's the guy people start following, you know?
yeah,
It's a con job. It's a con job. All of it, right? So like, I think this is also confusing to new entrants to Bitcoin, because they're like, well, I don't understand. Like, all the Bitcoiners seem like assholes who are running in opposite directions. Whenever I ask them a question, they tell me to fuck myself. I mean, because I get questions all the time where people will be like, hey, can you send me, like, you just said Ethereum sucks. Can you send me an article about why Ethereum sucks? I'm like, no, you fucking faggot. I don't have a fucking article about why it sucks. It sucks from first principles. Fucking think, you stupid bitch.
it's a good way to win people over.
Well, but it's also like, I've had this conversation like how many times, and
Yeah,
how often does it work out? So now I'm just like, listen, I'm a free person. I don't have authority over you. I'm not trying to sound like some credentialed asshole who's like, here are all the reasons why I went to MIT, and here are all the reasons why Ethereum can't work, right? It's like,
yeah,
no, it doesn't work from first principles. That's why it doesn't work. And ETH 1.0 is a scam. So just use your fucking eyeballs. I
yeah.
mean,
What's well, here's prediction time. Over under on when people stop caring about Ethereum.
uh,
When I say people, I don't mean people in the Bitcoin community. I just mean,
well,
when do
I
companies
think it's in
stop giving
the,
them money?
yeah, I think it's in the interest of Vitalik and Co. to implode that scam as slowly as possible.
Yeah,
Because if you implode that scam over the course of 10 years, you're not going to go to jail, because it was
yeah.
like, well, we put in 10 years of time
Right,
and
yeah.
effort and it just didn't work out, right? But you know,
So is it the
I
producers
guess
at this
10
point? The
I
Mel
guess
Brooks movie?
10 years is my answer. Like,
Yeah,
it's going to be a slow death, because they're going to milk it for everything it's worth, and you know, they don't want the community to think they failed them or whatever. But
yeah.
eventually people are going to look at it and say, what's happening here? Fucking nothing,
Well,
you know?
there's that whole almost what they're trying to make a meme on their part of how many developers they have, which is like okay, but yeah, I do wonder at this point if it's like the Mel Brooks movie, The Producers, where the whole idea is to collect money for this play, but you intentionally make something that's going to bomb at some point, so that way when the money goes away, at least it looks like you made a real effort though.
Totally.
You can't just abscond with the money. You have to put on some play that's so ridiculous that it'll fail, but you can say, "Oh, I did it." And I think you're right about the slow motion aspect of it for them, because it's like they can't just cash out tomorrow and exit scam and run away without people coming after them. But
Exactly. So you have to transition to ETH 2, and then you have to
yeah,
transition to ETH 3, and then,
yeah,
oh, it turns out none of them worked, and now we're transitioning to
yeah,
some new thing that's not called ETH, you
yeah.
know?
Oh, we're
It,
trying to get it to run on more nodes, but it's just not happening. And yeah, but
exactly.
enough about
Somebody asked me to explain the comment, Bitcoiners, you know, running in all different directions. It's basically like, if you've ever heard the phrase herding cats, Bitcoiners are just super independent and they do what they want to do. So they're not going to be easily led one way or the other. I mean, every time we have a conversation about something that's not Bitcoin, everyone disagrees in a million different directions. Like, I'm pro vaccine for the most part. I'm not going to take a coronavirus vaccine because I won't take any fucking rushed vaccine. But if I go out on Bitcoin Twitter and say I'm pro vaccine, a ton of people, every time I do, go, you fucking shill, fuck Bill Gates, bitch. You want to suck his dick? Fuck yourself. Vaccines are poison. It's like, all right, man. Hey, I'm entitled. Like, that's your opinion. and you're responsible for your children. So if they die of a vaccine preventable illness, I don't give a shit. They're your fucking child. You know, I don't know you. I don't care. So it's like, that's libertarianism, though.
Yeah.
That's not palatable to modern people, though. That the fact that we can hold these wildly different ideas, like it just, there's something about seeing your neighbor across the street living differently than you, and
Yeah.
it just makes you feel some type of way,
Yeah.
because we judge other people for how they spend their time, so that we don't feel bad about how we spend our time,
Yeah.
because nobody wants to feel like they're wasting their life.
Oh no. There's also an aspect of a lot of people have a hard time distinguishing between I don't think that this is a good thing, but I also don't think that this should be an illegal thing.
Right.
The drug war is still going on. It's like, yeah, I
Yeah, it's
don't
like,
think you
I'm not going
should.
to do meth,
Yeah,
but I think you should be able to do meth if you want to.
yeah.
Sure.
I mean, why should society spend time and resources? And yeah, that's a whole other issue. But
Yeah, like maybe don't sanction it for meth to be sold in a grocery store.
yeah,
But if people are going to get meth, like, why is it so hardcore illegal?
yeah.
Yeah.
And is it really better for society that we create this entire infrastructure fighting it to no end anyway? You know, it's still
Yeah.
here. How many trillion dollars have to be spent on it? But
This is why Bitcoin fixes this, dude.
yeah. Well, speaking of Bitcoin fixing things, my last point before I open it up to everybody else, just wanted to discuss a little about the personal effects of it, the psychological effects, and I'll kind of just talk about how it impacts me at this time, and you can talk about when you fell into the rabbit hole. But I remember 2008 really clearly. I'm a little bit older than probably the average Bitcoiner. I'm not in like Bitcoin Tina territory, but I'm a few years older than the average Bitcoiner. And I remember in 2008 when all this happened, and it wasn't nearly as bad as this. And eventually ended up losing my job and all that. And I had this interest in Austrian economics, and I saw where a lot of this was going. Um, and from then on, it just seemed like, yeah, we're just going off a cliff, and it doesn't matter how I recover. It doesn't matter what I do in the long term. We're going off a cliff. We're not stopping. There was a little bit of a movement in what 2010, 11, something like that. With and I think the Tea Party movement had a lot of baggage, but they actually did have this idea of maybe we shouldn't spend infinite money that we don't have. But that got crushed eventually, and it was just like, all right, well, we're just doing this. I guess we're going over that cliff. And right now, I think I would be just suicidally depressed, I think, if I did not know that there was an alternative, if I didn't know about Bitcoin, because I'd be looking at what we're doing and just like, we're fucked. This is it. Um, but Bitcoin has given all of us, I think, a potential plan B or a way out, or some sort of alternative. And I think most of us who fall into it, it makes us better people, not just intellectually and academically, because you start learning about things you never thought you were going to study, but psychologically, where it's like there's something to live for and to fight for. Um,
Yeah.
but now that I've asked that non-question question, um, do you want to talk a little bit about how it transformed you, like when you first kind of fell into the rabbit hole? Did you
So
have
I'm younger than you, so I would have, I think like me, Marty, Matt, guys like that, we're all around the same age,
yeah,
and I was in college when the world went to shit in '08, and it just was the biggest disillusionment across the board for me. I heard James O'Byrne, I don't know how to say it,
I don't know how to pronounce it.
but I heard him once say that when he was like 16, he was crying at the table with his father because like capitalism was over, and I felt that fucking comment. I was like, I used to have these conversations with my father too, where I would just be like, how am I supposed to go out in the world and make money when this doesn't make sense? And he was just like, well, you just got to play the game, and he gave me these answers that just weren't appealing. They didn't hold water, you know. And he was a success. My father was a successful guy, but I just couldn't listen to that shit because it wasn't real. And I think a lot of the guys my age, guys like Parker Lewis, like all kinds of people, we all have the same feeling, which was like, fuck this system. We're gonna undermine it. Like,
Yeah,
but we didn't know how. Like at the time when you feel that fuck this system thing, you just feel despondent, right? Like you were talking about, because you're just like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm just one guy, and I
Mhm.
guess I could buy gold, but the gold people seem retarded. So
Mhm.
what am I supposed to do, right? And then you launch into hedonism because you're in your early 20s anyway, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna fucking do drugs and
Just
fuck
love
chicks
the
and
first.
fucking
Yeah.
go to the club and twerk. I mean, I'm not gonna do the twerking, but I'm gonna appreciate the twerking. And
Is there a video out there somewhere of you twerking?
and then around late 2014, well 2013, well, all right, take it all the way back. I'll give you my 3 touches with Bitcoin because everybody has their 3 touches. But 2012, my buddy's like, dude, we can buy drugs on the Silk Road. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. We like start looking at it. We start looking at how to fucking get Bitcoins. We start looking at the Silk Road. I'm like, this is crazy. There's all these drugs for free. And then I hear my father's voice, who was a lawyer, ringing in the back of my head. He's like, you can't send drugs through the mail, you fucking idiot. That's
Yeah.
fucking illegal. That's a federal offense. And I was like, damn it. We should just source these drugs locally, dude. So yeah, that's what we did, and we ended up getting DMT from like his brother's friend or whatever. But then my next touch was the same friend came back to me at the bar in 2013 and was like, dude, remember those Bitcoins that were like $5? They're $1,000 right now. And I just sat there. I remember nursing my beer, just being like, I could have been so rich. This was my chance, And then I waited, I missed all the Gox drama and all that. And then late 2014, I finally started making money for the first time in my life. And I was just like, hey, what about that Bitcoin thing? I checked the price and it was like $200. And I was like, oh, that's way lower than 1,000. Must be a good time to buy. So I bought a bunch. And then I started getting down the rabbit hole and doing the research and everything. But from that day on, like I think it was Christmas of 2014, every day has just been like hardening myself as an individual and like stealing my resolve for what's to come, basically. Because this is just the fucking beginning. Like, if you think you're going to sell your Bitcoin for $1 million or whatever, like, by the time your Bitcoin is worth $1 million USD, the world is going to be a very different place. It won't
Yeah.
make any sense. It won't make any sense to sell your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like the journey is long. Even if the price shoots up in the next 10 years to crazy astronomical levels, the hodl journey is longer than that. It's longer than the United States dollar will exist. The hodl journey is forever. Like, this is till your deathbed.
Yeah.
You know?
The idea that this is just the beginning, I think, is something that painfully few people understand yet. And I'm not just talking about for Bitcoin, I'm talking about for this crisis that we're in. um, you know, a lot of us, or most of us, who are interested in Bitcoin, in a way, we've been expecting something like this for a very long time. Um, but even to us, it's still kind of a holy shit moment. So just, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be, a normie, for lack of a better term, going through all this right now, and what they're going to see happen to the economy in the next year. I can't even imagine what that's going to be like, because all sorts of things that seem like reality to them are just going to fly right out the window.
Oh, it's like, hey, dude, when people say Bitcoin's worthless, it's like, nah, it's worth $7,000. You know what's worthless? Oil. Oil's fucking worthless.
Yeah,
That's what's worthless.
yeah.
You know?
I like the meme where it's on the dollar menu at McDonald's. I don't know if you
No,
see.
I know, right? I was just reading an article about how, basically the UN is trying to set up some fucking council to stop debt payments between sovereigns because it's going to cause a global famine, you know? So to me personally, I think we should reopen the economy and let old people die. And
Yeah.
I don't care how unpopular it fucking sounds to people.
Well,
Like, this virus is only killing the old. Young and healthy are not getting it. If you feel like you should quarantine, like, let's take a libertarian perspective on this and let everybody do whatever the fuck they want. If the virus spreads, the virus spreads. Like, humanity's gonna live with this virus forever now. There's no going, like, immunologically, this is going to be in human DNA forever. It's like in the War of the Worlds when the aliens land here and they die from the common cold. We earn the right to live on this fucking planet through dealing with these viruses over and over and over again. So at some point, like, you're gonna get infected with it, or a version of it.
yeah, we're
I think.
talking about this in a way that I actually just had this conversation with Mrs. Al right before we recorded. We're talking about this in a way that doesn't treat how reality is. It's like it's being couched in terms of, are you for everybody being in quarantine and staying on
Right.
the safe, or reopening. And if you're for quarantine, it's like a wash. It's like everything's neutral. We just stay like this, but it's not neutral. Like we're gonna start running out of food on the grocery store shelves. People
Yeah.
act like you can just do this forever, and I don't know what the right answer is. I think there's going to have to be different rules in different areas for sure. I mean, it doesn't
It
make sense
was
to treat
it
Wyoming like
was
you treat Manhattan.
weird, man. When I was just at Costco, things looked like they were fully stocked, but it was a bunch of items that you wouldn't normally buy that were in place of the items you would normally buy.
Mhm.
So there was like no pasta in the pasta aisle. Instead, it was a bunch of oatmeal, right? Like, so Costco has like gone through this like psyop basically. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not a psyop. They just
but it's
were
marketing
like,
in a way.
let's put out food on the floor.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's put out food on the floor. But yeah, it's like Costco's full. Don't worry, we have toilet paper. Come on down. Like,
yeah.
fucking the toilet paper thing is retarded,
I
man.
think we
But
just
yeah,
we
I,
view
I
that
just
stuff as if
hate
it's
the idea.
all wash.
I think it's just everyone's just such a soft pussy that this is like such pearl clutching about this virus. Like, it's not gonna go away. It
Yeah,
is now a part of humanity. You're gonna have to fucking take your chances. And if you're one of the unlucky ones who's gonna get it and die, that's how it goes, man. This is the end of your fucking ride. Like, I could say that knowing full well that it could be me. But that is the truth. That is the reality of our situation that we're faced with.
yeah. We're not going to be able to negotiate our way out of it with reality. Just
Exactly.
I don't know the notion that we're just all going to stay home forever. It's like, have you
That's
thought
what
about what that
American
looks like
leadership
6 months?
tried to do. Yeah, that's what American leadership tried to do. They tried to bluff the virus. You
Yeah,
can't bluff a virus. Like, Trump
yeah,
was up there like, it's a hoax. It's not coming here. Don't worry about it. Like, dude, you can't. It's a fucking virus. It's already here because you didn't shut the border. Like, listen, he took all the arrows in his back for being racist and whatever for shutting down the Chinese border. Anyway, he should have done it fucking back in January. You
yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
if you're gonna do it early. Do it early and often.
Do
You
it
know.
hard. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
This goes to that quote, and then I will open it up to everybody. That quote that I had shared with you from I think it's the Age of Shoddy is the account. He's not a Bitcoin guy, but he's a great account. Talks about a lot of really interesting stuff. But he said something to the effect of we're so used to being ruled by a class that maintains their power through manipulating words essentially, and that's all that they do.
Yep.
And they're completely unprepared to deal with reality because when you're dealing with reality is just policing how people talk and what they can say and manipulating language and playing factions across each other, that doesn't matter to a virus,
Yeah.
and I'm going to end the virus talk about just by saying I think in a way we could be thankful for this someday, that we got a little dose of this by a virus that's not so terrible.
Yeah.
Could have been a
Yeah.
lot
I
worse.
agree.
It was a wake up call of nature is still there. We kind of think sometimes that we've conquered nature, but we still live on a planet. It's still just a little ball in space, and that stuff still plays by its own rules. And whether it's going to be a virus, whether it's going to be an asteroid, something like that, like you can't talk it away. You can't run an ad that convinces everybody and that makes it gone. It's just not how reality operates. So maybe we're gonna have a new respect for treating, as I think as Dr. Drew would say, reality operates on reality's terms. So
Yeah.
um,
I 100% agree with that.
we've got a lot of people on this one. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute everybody. But if you just want to type your questions to American Hodl, and he can just pick and choose who he wants to engage with, which ones he wants to answer, because otherwise everybody's going to be talking all at once and it's going to get ugly. So if you have any questions, now is your time. Type them in the chat. I'm going to unmute everybody now. So
like crazy, and they had just
hey,
totally the
whoever's
wrong
talking,
side, which they knew. They were asked to change it, and they wouldn't do that.
Who's got
apparently
Trump
Donald Trump is on the call.
It was that, so I'll ask Dr.
Mr. President, excuse me, sir.
Professional to come up and
Right.
explain.
I don't know where that's coming from. So
What's the worst take you've heard about Bitcoin? The worst take I've heard about
Thank you,
Bitcoin
Mr. President.
is
I
all
really
of them.
do think it's important to clarify this.
Any negative
I'm
take
muting again.
I've ever heard about
Yesterday.
any negative take I've ever heard about Bitcoin has been a total straw man. I I've been waiting for the take that I think, oh yeah, that guy's right. Like Bitcoin could fail in that particular manner, and I have yet to come across it. So there you go.
Yeah, there's never a time where I hear an anti-Bitcoin take where it's either somebody who isn't shilling an altcoin, a shitcoin, or simply doesn't understand an aspect of Bitcoin.
There are only two types of people, dude. There are people who understand Bitcoin and are like, oh, this is fucking revolutionary, and there are people who don't understand Bitcoin and they're like, I don't like it because it doesn't conform to my biases. Those are the only two, and the only criticism you hear from, or mainly the only criticism you hear from the people who are like, it doesn't conform to my biases. I hear issues from the in-group, from Bitcoiners, especially like technical Bitcoiners who have concerns, and those are very valid concerns that can all be addressed technically. But they never come with a hand wavy problem. They always come with something that like has trade-offs. We could do this, but it cost us this.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a great discussion to have in every single regard. If we're gonna have a discussion about trade-offs, let's do it, because nothing in life is free. And the shitcoins will tell you we don't have trade-offs. Yes, you do, because you have to deal with reality on reality's terms.
Yeah.
Like Al said, we all have trade-offs in life. You have to choose something to do with your time, and the things that you choose are going to prevent you from doing other things. That's basic opportunity cost. That's a trade-off that's inherent to everything. So
yeah, you've got a lot of other questions coming up here. So
let me pick another question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have any criticism about Casa or generally? I'm pleased with Casa. There are some technical criticisms I've heard about the cold card, but I haven't added a cold card to my setup. I'm one of Casa's 3 of 5 customers, and so I have the Big Daddy account at Casa, except for there's one you can use if you're part of like a institution or something that's like $5,000, and I think it's still a 3 of 5, but it comes with like extra hand holding from Casa basically. But yeah, I love Casa. I also love Unchained though. I'd recommend Unchained just as much as I would recommend Casa. Are you gonna fight that LTC guy at the Bitcoin 2020 conference? Dude, the Litecoiners want to fight me, but it's like I went to one Litecoin meetup and I had a gun on me. I'm a grown man. I'm not gonna take brain damage. I'm just not. Like, if you're gonna try and fight me, you're gonna get shot in the kneecap, and then you're gonna get shot in the stomach, and then you're gonna get shot in the chest. I'm not gonna sit around and fight anybody. I had my last bar fight like 4 years ago, and I'm not doing it again. I won that fight too, but
there's a point where you got too much
it's
money.
not worth it, dude. Yeah, it's not worth it. Like, I could get sued. I could get brain trauma. Nah, pass. I have nothing to prove to anybody there. Plus, all the Litecoiners are fucking dumbasses. When hyperinflation, hodl. I agree that the fact that central banks continue to hold on to their gold and have even started increasing their reserves testifies to the confidence that they have in their own currencies in the long term. When hyperinflation, I believe in we will see hyperinflation at the very tail end of the dollar's collapse, but I think it's going to be a slower and more steady process. I used to buy into the hyperinflation narrative, but then safety kind of convinced me that it's just going to go slow and steady as individuals opt out, basically.
I think
when you had
see it in other currencies before you see it in the dollar, long before you see it in the dollar.
When you had the mayor experience, did you rethink your approval of others in the space? If so, how many didn't make the cut? Yeah, I did rethink a lot of a lot of people, but most people made the cut. Like, I think where I had an issue was I was a little bit hero worshiping Trace and dick riding Trace because I listened to Trace like in 2015. You guys got to understand, if you came in later, there were no fucking Bitcoin podcasts. There was like 3 Bitcoin podcasts and they all sucked. And at least Trace was rich, and so you could kind of listen to him and be like, all right, yeah, this guy's fucking, he knows what he's talking about. And then when 2017 happened, everything that Trace said was going to come true came true. And I was like, man, fucking this guy made me rich, basically. Like, just listening to this guy made me rich. So I was blinded to how greedy and callous he is as a person. And I think, community-wide, people were blinded to it too. But when I came face to face with him, I was like, oh shit, this guy's the greediest motherfucker I ever met in my whole life, And then he showed me directly that shitcoin.
I've said this, I think I said this in the Friday chat to some people a couple of weeks ago, that despite your persona, as being willing to throw down with everybody, I think it's to your credit, or people should understand that I think it did genuinely hurt you to have to kind of do what you did with him. But it was one of those sticking to your principles things. I mean, I don't think you relished doing that to Trace because this was a guy that you really had looked up to so much.
No, I really didn't want to do it. I'll be honest with you. And, I'll tell you, like, from being at the conference, there were a lot of people who also had the story, and only Giacomo was ballsy enough to go out on Twitter at the same time I did and be like, here's what Trace was doing. In fact, I didn't know because I was getting drunk at the bar with Jack Mahlers, but Giacomo had called out Trace, and there's that video of that.
That award ceremony thing?
Yeah. Giacomo has much bigger balls than I do, dude. I mean, it hurt, dude. It hurts to fucking slay your hero up close. It is Shakespearean. You don't want to do it. I mean, it's some Joseph Campbell shit or something. Like, I didn't want to fucking do it, but I just thought, well, and it's even harder for me because Trace lives in Las Vegas. So
I didn't
there
know
would have
that.
been, yeah, he does. So there would have been ample opportunities for me to connect with him and, rub shoulders and use him for my own purposes. And there's always benefits to hanging out with rich people, So to give that up was kind of like, I don't want to do that. But then I was like, I don't want to let this motherfucker show Mimblewimble coin either. So let's see. Been thinking about the security model of Bitcoin. Obviously, the system is robust, but at some point, the survival of Bitcoin is going to rely on the resolve of the people. It seems like we've gotten to the point where people don't seem to give a shit about freedom. How much does that affect Bitcoin's future success? And how do we change that mentality? I think that's the whole intolerant minority conversation that we were having earlier. You got to make yourself, you got to harden yourself, and then you have to raise hard children who don't take shit from other people. That's the key to Bitcoin's continued success. Will the Citadel be in the deserts of Nevada? No, it sucks in the deserts of Nevada. But land is cheap. What will the minimum amount of guns required to be owned by each adult in the Citadel? You got to have 6.15 guns. That goes without saying.
So
what is
spare
that?
parts, basically.
You got to have a assault rifle, a hunting rifle, a fucking shotgun, 2 handguns. I don't know, some other guns too.
Gun to be determined. Taser.
Oh, somebody said top of the line cost is 3 of 6 and includes a lawyer. Mixed feelings. I think that's their inheritance product, and you don't have to sign up for the inheritance product. Do you coin join before or after sending to a multi-sig setup? I've been really lazy about coin joining, honestly, and I've only done like 4 coin joins. I said I was going to do more coin joins, and it's really all right. Here, I'll talk about this. This is one where it's hard for me because of the culture that we were raised in. I don't value my own privacy. And for years, I've leaked so much information to the internet that I kind of feel like it's pointless at this point, So the thought of like coin joining all my Bitcoin when I'm already known to the U.S. government, it's not that I oppose coin joins in any way, shape, or form. I think people should be able to do whatever the fuck they want with their Bitcoin, and I do coin join some of my Bitcoins, but I'm lazy because I just feel like, what's the fucking point,
Well, also, I think just if anyone who's kind of new to Bitcoin is listening to this, if you bought your Bitcoin off an exchange, which is most of you, and you're KYC'd already, you cannot hide from the government the fact that you own Bitcoin by coin joining. They might not know exactly where it is, what wallet it's in, or what address it's in, but they know that you have Bitcoin. So
right.
Coin joining is good for other reasons, possibly, or for other kinds of OPSEC. But if your use case is the government won't know I have Bitcoin, that is not how it works. If you bought off of Coinbase or Cash App or Kraken, they're gonna know. So
yeah, exactly.
Forget about that.
I think it is a negative mentality for me though that I do need to overcome, and it's a personal point of weakness how little I care about my privacy. So it is something that I need to overcome, but every day I just have so much inertia towards it. I'm a starving Bitcoiner from Monaco that wants to have one full Bitcoin. Bro, if you're in Monaco, fucking hit the craps tables, dude. Get your Bitcoin the old-fashioned way.
I'm limited to a yacht that's only 50 feet long. Can you help me?
Where is the 100K BTC party? I said I was going to throw the party in Vegas, so fuck. Let's do it, man. I'll rent out a club.
Speaking of the 100K BTC, though, when you're talking about multi-sig options, and if it's worth that for the average person, you may want to go. For those of you, I don't mean you, American Hodl, but for the audience, if we're talking 100K plus BTC, your holdings may very quickly be worth that. You may want a lawyer involved in the same way that you'd want a lawyer involved when you sell your house, because you may be talking about that kind of money. So.
To me
Yeah.
personally, even if I'm storing hundreds of millions of dollars, like I don't want a lawyer involved, but I do think that geographically dispersed multi-sig is something people sleep on, because the minute I did it and got my coins off of just separate individual hardware wallets, the minute I actually moved them into now they're all across America.
Yeah.
And I made it really hard. It's hard for me to withdraw Bitcoin from cold storage, so it's really hard for an attacker to withdraw Bitcoin from cold storage, if not near impossible. I just sleep better at night since doing that.
Yeah.
Let's see. When are you adopting Jackie? Fucking yesterday, dude. We're gonna do. I'm gonna. If the 100K party goes down, we're gonna do cocaine together, right? I mean, come on. You gotta. That's gotta. I'm gonna take all the Zoomers to do cocaine.
I'm not so sure that you and Jackie should be allowed in the same place at the same time. That's a potentially dangerous combination right there. He is Italian Stewie Griffin.
As someone who's isolated from other Bitcoiners, what do you think is the best thing I can do to learn? Read, talk to no-coiners, talk to Bitcoiners online. Do you think doxing yourself help? You don't need to dox yourself, because people are totally cool talking to anons in Bitcoin, right? I mean, how often do you come across somebody who's like, "Oh, I won't talk to anons, bro." Fucking never.
Yeah.
So I think stay not doxed. It's probably better to not be doxed, and just conversate on Twitter, man. Get in fucking private Telegram groups and talk to people on Twitter, and it just takes time, honestly. Like, Bitcoin opens your mind immediately and you're like, oh, everything's possible, but you still don't know shit about it. It took me fucking years and years, and I consider myself a smart person, but it took at least a year before I think I had a full solid understanding of the value proposition of Bitcoin. And it took me probably 3 years before I felt like confident enough to talk to other people about it and share my opinion. And it took me, up until this point to become like somebody who's out on Twitter every day fucking pounding the pavement and being like, Bitcoin's the fucking answer, you pieces of shit.
Yeah. I've almost always found too that people in this community they're really open to talking to. You don't have to be somebody who's a superstar. You don't have to be an author of a book or something like that. Like, people will talk to you. People are really accessible if they have the time.
Totally. Who do you like better, Marty or Matt? I like them both for different reasons. I feel like me and Marty both agree about a lot of things, and like it's like easy to have a conversation with Marty because we just agree on basically most stuff. With Matt offers a lot more pushback, which I enjoy. And Matt is always like that friend who will just like play devil's advocate for you no matter what you're saying and be basically your conscience, which is like that's a great dude to have around. I like Matt a lot. Me and Matt sometimes beef a little bit, but it's not bad. I think it's just because Matt hates that I don't care about my own privacy. And he's like disappointed in me. He's like, you fucking care about your privacy. Come on, dude.
In terms of I think Matt and Stefan Livera are the two people that I aspire to their level. If I could know as much as them, I would feel like I'd really accomplish something. But in terms,
I always feel like I'm letting down both of them. I'm like,
but as far as like personality or real world knowledge, I think Marty is probably a lot closer to where most of us are, where Matt's on another level technically, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to reach that. I could maybe be a Matt. I don't think I could be a Matt though.
Jackie says, how do we make sure the generations after us don't become soft bitches and let someone destroy Bitcoin? I think a large part of this is educating children up front. I mean, none of us were ever taught about monetary systems in school, or about how money is issued or created, or the history of money, or the history of distributed systems for that matter. We weren't taught anything about both computing and money, which is why it's so hard for normal people to get into Bitcoin. You have to have some background on the history of money and the history of distributed systems before you'll even fucking have an inkling of what makes Bitcoin important. So like educating children and basically indoctrinating the fuck out of them, that's the key. And then just, basically telling them like, you'll come back and haunt them from your grave. I'm arguing with JW Weatherman right now. He thinks only coders will be valued in the future. I posit that coding will become so rudimentary and meat-based skills will be higher value. Thoughts? Do computers learn to code? Probably. They already can to some degree. So like once a computer can sit down and just do full code architecture, like, yeah, that's the real.
Yeah, once computers can learn to code, is the concept of jobs even relevant anymore?
I think your human capital has a lot of, like computers are never going to be able to make art. They'll be able to make entertainment for sure, but they'll never be able to make art. I don't know. It's a moot point, dude. Just get Bitcoin and then, fucking hang on to it. And if the computer revolution happens, the computers are going to want Bitcoin too. Let's see.
Sex robot.
Government knows I have Bitcoin out, but they don't know my keys got destroyed by my wife while doing laundry. Everybody does the boating accident thing, but hacked by the Chinese is better than boating accident. Because you can just be like, they're like, where's your coins? You're like, I was hacked by the Chinese. And they're like, what day were you hacked? You're like, you just picked the day you sent to a different address. And it's like, look, the Chinese own that address, not me.
Well, the boating accident thing also brings up a really important aspect of Bitcoin. And earlier when we were talking about guns and defending your Bitcoin and all that, they can come after you or anyone, whether it's thieves or government or whatever, and they can do whatever they want, but they cannot by force take your Bitcoin. They can kill you, but they cannot take your Bitcoin unless you tell them the keys. Assuming a brain wallet situation or whatever, there's no way to forcibly take it unless you have the private keys. It's not like a bank account or something where they can come after you and they can get a warrant from a judge and then take your account. Like, there's no authority to appeal to. You either have the keys or you don't. So it may not be worth it to physically come after people for their Bitcoin.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be, and what would be the criteria that you'd optimize for? I'd want to live in a place. I'd want to live in America regardless, and I would want to live in a Republican state if I could, and I would want to live someplace that had land. Honestly, if we could just like shake all the liberal pussies out of California, Northern California is pretty fucking nice, but that's never gonna happen. I think maybe someplace like Idaho or Wyoming or fucking Montana, Texas, something like that. I grew up in the South, and I've been kind of missing the American South. Like, it's just a different culture. It's better in a lot of ways. If you're white, it's much worse if you're not white. Let's see. By the way, as an addendum to the recent Colombian BTC story, I was there a few years ago, met a nice gal, got her interested in BTC, and she installed Edge. We're pretty good friends, and for her birthday this year, I wanted to give her a new phone. Tried everything to ship her a Pixel, eBay, Amazon. No one would ship there. Finally, I just sent her BTC. She converted it on local BTC in under an hour, and she got the phone locally the next day. Hey, that sounds like when I sent fucking Jackie a fucking PlayStation. Have you bought that PlayStation yet, Jackie? What the fuck, man?
Jackie, you can chime in if you want. I'm unmuting you, so you can answer that question.
Yo, Hodl. I bought it, but I don't know about the shipping. It's blocked. The fucking state. If you want to help me overthrow the government, I can get my PS faster.
For anybody who doesn't know, his mom took away his PlayStation. I was like, hey, bro, fuck your mom. I'm going to buy you a PlayStation. So I bought him a PlayStation.
Yeah. But the communists won't let me have it. So.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Europe is hella gay, dude. Just across the board. No offense, Europeans.
Whatever, American.
All right. I'm muting Jackie again. Oh, wait, he's back to me. What else we got on here? Sorry, I got to scroll back down. Anybody else have any questions besides talking shit about Al? Communist mothers, Minecraft. Satoshi was a Yank, by the way, Chancellor Brink. Most likely. Oh, hold on, you're muted. You somehow got muted.
Fucking. Am I unmuted now?
Yeah,
dude, it's 100% that Satoshi's American. Come on. Yeah. Bitcoin is an American fucking revolution. Like, I buy the argument that he was educated in Britain. I'll buy that argument. But he was in America, living in America. Like, the time codes match up with, well, that's tricky. The time codes could either be Europe or they could be the Eastern Seaboard, but it's one of the two. So he's definitely not from fucking Russia or China.
Yeah, highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know if I'm fat. Do I sound fat? I don't know.
Well, you got a fat profile photo.
They got a fat voice. Yeah, that's not an actual photograph. I don't know if anyone realized that. It's a lifelike drawing. It's so lifelike that you can barely tell. But if you look closely, That's not an actual photograph.
Will there be a war before the powers lose value of their money? I don't think you can have a war between superpowers in modern times because of the
Nuclear era?
nuclear deterrent.
Yeah.
You can only have proxy wars in other countries, right? Like Vietnam. I don't know that superpowers. Now, here's the thing. We are in America's in a 24/7 fucking cyber and economic war with China that nobody ever talks about. It's weird that we don't call it a Cold War. We're in a Cold War with both China and Russia currently, and North Korea to some degree.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that's just how things are done nowadays. And the weird thing is with code, I don't know if anybody ever thinks about this, but with code, when you fire that code bullet, right? Like when you launch something like the Stuxnet virus, which took down a nuclear facility in Iran. By the way, do you know the story about that? When the NSA launched the Stuxnet virus in fucking Iran, they also hacked into the loudspeaker system, and they played fucking Thunderstruck by AC/DC while the reactor core was melting down.
I did not know that.
Dude, that's the most bad. Imagine being an Iranian nuclear engineer, and you're being taunted by the NSA while they're melting down your facility. That's some scary fucking shit, man.
Like imagine you're watching your centrifuges that are spinning at like 100,000 rotations a minute or something. Yeah, that's gotta be intense. I think the way
the point I was gonna make that real quick is that when you fire that code bullet, it can be refired over and over again. That's the scary thing about viruses, computer viruses.
Yeah, it's out there now. So the way they supposedly got it into the facility, and who knows if this is true, but it was the drop USB trick. So somebody, and this is a common thing. So if you're in a parking lot and you find a USB on the ground near your car or something, don't go pick it up and put it in your computer.
Right.
If anybody does that, don't do that. That's really stupid. But
if some guy's trying to give you his mixtape, he's like, "Hey, bro, here's my mixtape."
Yeah.
And then you take it, and then he's like, "Oh, for a $20 donation." You're like, "I don't want it, dude. For $20, fuck yourself."
Yeah, but don't put random USBs in your computer because you don't know what's on there. But allegedly, that was how they got it into the facility for Stuxnet. But that was
By the way, what's up with Kim Jong-un? Have you heard anything more?
Yeah, I know it's hard. Supposedly was bullshit. So
was it?
Yeah, so he did have surgery, but the whole thing where CNN had reported rumors that he was brain dead, and then they walked that back, and there's currently the official line from our government and other Western governments is there's no indication that he's not in control right now. So, but that's a big Bitcoin country too. Supposedly they're doing a lot of mining there.
So, well, yeah. I mean, when you're cut off from, when you're sanctioned globally, what's the best use case? Like Bitcoin, dude. Oh, all right. Let's just do basic moon Lambo shit. What do you think is your prediction for the next, let's say, 18 months post halving?
I think we break stock to flow in a good way, for sure. So
you're invalid to the upside? You think that?
Yeah. Get somebody who supposedly is muted is talking. I'm going to mute them again. I'm not a technical analysis expert here, but I'm going to say after the halving, year and a half post, we're going to shoot up to 300 to 500.
I've been hearing 100 from the crypto crowd. The crypto crowd is all repeating 100. I think that the point to make about the stock to flow model is that the stock to flow model always overshoots the model price. So when there are, tops, like in 17, the model price was not 20 grand. The model price was like $3 grand or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then or six, was it six? I can't remember. But then before that, the $1,000 range, the model price was like a couple $100 or something like that. So like we always overshoot the model top. So we're gonna overshoot 100K, or the more conservative version of the model is 55K. We're gonna overshoot in one of those directions, I think, to the tune of 2.5 to 3x. So I would say conservatively between 150 and 300. That sounds right.
Yeah, I think stock to flow is misunderstood by a lot of people. They think it's a prediction where it's more, I like to think of it as sort of like a center of gravity around which the price orbits. So it can go way up or way below that. But you're probably closer to reality on that. I'm just adding in all this crazy black swan stuff that's going on now.
So somebody said I run a business in the space, and we're seeing a huge influx of new users since March, and volume post stimulus check has bumped up considerably. I think people are going to underestimate the supply shock they're having. They always do, man.
No, it's all priced
For
in.
anybody who this is your it's so retarded to say it's priced in. For anybody who this is your first having, it's going to go off with a whimper. I mean, in 20 days, or you know what, we like 17 days away or something, 18 days away, 19. I don't fucking know. But in like 2 weeks when it happens, it's just going to be like a nice, like we pat ourselves on the back and we go, oh look, it went off technically without a hitch again, yay, Bitcoin's awesome. And then the price will probably dump because that's just how Bitcoin, the only thing I know about the Bitcoin price is that it always does the opposite of what you expect it to do. That it just always does that, right? And so after it dumps, all the bears will come out and they'll be like, oh yeah, see, fucking stock to flow is fucking stupid, yo, what's up? Fucking trade, I'm gonna trade Litecoin, I'm dumb as shit. And then and then it's just gonna go whoop all the way fucking up. And you know, if I'm being on my super bullish days, I think we're headed for like 700K. I think the thing that would be most shocking to me is if we made a run at 1 million. Like if it looked like we were making a run at 1 million this time, you would think to yourself, you would be like, hyper Bitcoinization is happening. I need to fucking sell my house and go all in. And then we get to like 3/4 of the way, they're like 750, and then we fucking fall all the way back down. I could see that happening like a motherfucker, you know?
Yeah, don't be stupid out there, people. Don't spend money you can't spend.
Somebody also said that, you know, the new all-time high inflation adjusted is like 23,000 or something like that, because they've printed so much fucking money since the all-time high that you have to recalculate the all-time high. So we're not going to really reach like peak escape velocity until like I think 25K, something like that.
Yeah, and it's not going to be like you were saying at the halving. It's like if it doesn't happen a week after the halving, that's not how it normally happens anyway. So it's not like you light the firecracker on the day of the halving and it blows up 2 seconds later. It takes 1.5 years usually, right, for those effects to fully be felt.
Dude, somebody said imagine FOMOing so hard you sell your house for 20 million sats or some shit. Yeah, that would be fucking nuts, dude. I mean, I remember there was a guy who FOMO'd and sold his house and all his belongings when the price was like $4,000 or something. And I was like, this guy's a dumb piece of shit. Like, we just went up from $200. And then it went to 20 grand. So that dude made like $6 million or something if he sold. You know? And even if he didn't sell, he's above where he got in at. So it fucking worked out. Like, sometimes shit, really stupid shit can work out. I'll tell you this. You'd be surprised at the amount of like OGs that you see on Twitter who have been in the space a long time, who have told me to my face that they bought all of their fucking coins on credit cards or they financed their coins with debt. Like, so many, dude. And
it just turned out.
It just worked out. Like, now I'm not recommending you do that because like we saw with the dip to 3,800 that happened. I also had OGs calling me on the phone being like, yeah, dude, I'm fucking wrecked. Can you loan me some money? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not loaning you shit. I didn't have a leveraged position on like your dumbass. So no, I'm not going to loan you anything. Sorry.
What if I move to Colombia?
Dude, so many people have been fucking hitting me up and be like, hello, yes, I'm Mr. American Hodl. You're a great man. Can you give me 10 million sats? I'm like, no, motherfucker.
I would love to talk to that guy, but I also don't want to destroy his OPSEC. So
he told me he would talk to somebody. I tried to hook him up with Peter McCormack, but I think Peter McCormack dissed him. He was just like, you're too small time for me, bro. I'm Peter fucking McCormack.
Well, nobody's too small time for Al. So what's his name? Anarchist Kids or something like that? ANCAP Children, something?
ANCAP Children, yeah. Yeah, he's freaking out, dude. I've talked to him a bunch in the DMs, and he was like, dude, my whole like fucking reality has like melted, you know, like this shit like doesn't even make sense, you know, because that's like 4 years of hard saving for him, and you know, once the price moves, he would never have the opportunity to own that much coin.
Oh yeah.
So we really did like change his life, and he's fully bought in. The part of the reason I felt good doing it for him is because he's a hardcore Bitcoiner. Like he's fully bought in. He's like, oh, I'm gonna hodl this shit until fucking kingdom come, you know. And I was like, dude, how dope is that gonna be when the price goes to $1 million and like you basically got a free $1 million from strangers on the internet? That's like the coolest thing I've ever
Oh, yeah.
heard of. You know,
That's one to tell your kids years later.
when just think about like, there's so many things that go into that, right? First of all, it shows how scarce and valuable a single Bitcoin is, that we all came together to not only give this guy a Bitcoin, but that it was such a life-changing amount of money for him, you know, to be in the community and have a full Bitcoin as a status symbol and all this kind of shit, right? It just reinforces the scarcity narrative. So it's not pure charity, because it actually is pumping Bitcoin when we do stuff like this. And I think all Bitcoiners implicitly know that, which is why they're like, yeah, we're gonna fucking pump, we're gonna do some charity and pump the price of Bitcoin. Let's go, you know?
Yeah, I think of him now like at the end of Saving Private Ryan, when Tom Hanks is telling him, "Earn this. You got to earn this."
Yeah,
I hope he lives a good life with that. You know, I hope he's
totally.
something really valuable for himself, but also for you know, for his country, because who knows what they're going to go through when things get really bad too.
What percentage of crypto Twitter, not Bitcoin Twitter, crypto Twitter, do you think has less than one Bitcoin?
Oh, huge. Like not name people, just in general, not big
Yeah,
name people.
let's go big name people. Let's go people with more than 10,000 followers.
Okay.
How many crypto Twitter influencers with more than 10,000 followers do you think have less than one Bitcoin?
God, I would hope it's like 10%, but I bet you could shock me.
I bet you it's 60%.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's 60% for sure, man. Because like the fucking way they talk is just, you can tell they're poor.
Yeah. Well, plus a lot of it is a lot of the interest is people are so young, where you got to remember like what they're probably actually making in real life, and how realistic it is to put much away. You know, if you live in New York City and you're paying $3,000 a month to live in a closet, you know, and you're in a relatively entry level job out of college, and you know, you're probably not making 70 grand a year in a place that costs you tens and tens of thousands of dollars a year just for your rent. Forget all your other expenses.
Right.
What do you have left
Totally.
to put away for that? So, yeah, you might be right about that.
This is why I started like going more public with buys and stuff, is because in 17, 18, I was seeing like, you know, noobs fall victim to these dudes, and you know, who are living with their fucking mom. And it's like, dude, that's pathetic. These guys don't have any coinage. You know, they're not putting their money where their mouth is. Like, they have no skin in the game. So I was just like, I'm gonna pump shit out there and then say what I fucking believe. Because there's something about seeing somebody put their money where their mouth is, where you're like, oh, this guy just made like a 70K buy. Like, I'm gonna listen to him.
Yeah.
You know? Because that's what I did with Trace Mayer. So I just was like, I'll be the Trace Mayer for the new generation.
Well, somebody's got to be. Just
Yeah.
don't come out with a shitcoin anytime soon.
I think the fun thing about being a Bitcoin like influencer or whatever the fuck is that I'm gonna disappear. Like in like, I don't know, whenever the fuck I feel like it. The minute I get bored of it, I'm gonna be like, delete, or I'll just call somebody a faggot and then I'll get banned.
Yeah.
But
Likely.
I think it's fun too, because new, like, you know, Bitcoiners emerge to be like the key voice on Twitter, and like a lot of the Zoomers right now will be the fucking key voices to, you know, the next gen, and like so on it goes, you know. And like when I was first in, it was still guys like Giacomo and Francis. Those guys have been around fucking forever, you know.
Yeah.
But even Safety wasn't a big deal back in the day. He only became a big deal when he wrote that book, you know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future when I can be the old guy in a three-piece suit and I'm hanging out with Jackie in over in Rome, and we're talking about or Milan, and talking about back in the day when he was this little kid on Dirtbag Friday. He and Nick were just going back and forth with Pumpkin Toshi Sam.
He'll be smoking a pipe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But it's cool. I mean, you know, I have the most tiny little taste of influence, whatever you want to call it. But it's fun. I mean, you get to people talk to you and people send you DMs and ask you questions. What's your opinion on this? And and it's been a lot of fun. You're 10,000 times better known than I am, but so you've seen it in a much bigger way. But it's been enjoyable to find this thing that we're so passionate about, and have people who actually want to hear you rant about it, because nobody I know in real life wants to hear me rant about it.
I know, right? I will tell you, when I started going to like conferences and like dox myself and then started meeting some people, I was like, yeah, a lot of people are fucking crazy. Like, it's like, yeah, a lot of these people I thought were mildly sane are pretty fucking nuts. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm fucking nuts too. So who am I to judge these people? Like, that was my feeling when I started meeting Bitcoiners in real life.
I don't think there's any kind of conference that anybody can go to that has whatever kind of following where there probably aren't a bunch of lunatics there.
I know, right? You could go to the Linux conference, it would be
Yeah.
just, or the Tesla conference, it would be lunatics.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Well,
People are just obsessed. It
I
becomes,
fell down the rabbit hole of people who have Tesla YouTube channels the other day. They talk about Tesla all day long. They're just Tesla fanboys who do YouTubes about it. And they were like flying drones over the Berlin Gigafactory, and they were like,
my God.
"Oh yes, you can clearly see where the test site is going to be." It's like, shut up, you fucking nerds. Who cares?
Yeah, I couldn't care less about that stuff. I just want to drive the car. But yeah, but it's cool that you get people who find their thing, and I'd rather it be that than fall in love with ISIS. So
Totally.
there's
Yeah, and I think
a dark path.
I think Bitcoin needs this like loose collection of, really, like Jabari just said it, like preaching is greater than ranting. It's like, Bitcoiners on Twitter are kind of like preachers. It's preaching the good word of Bitcoin, and you're like, have you heard? Like, come hither. Have you heard? There's only 21 million Bitcoins, because people don't know.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of do it in like an entertaining way and be, because there are those accounts, and we know them, who are salty because they don't get engagement, right? Because they just talk about dry technical stuff all the time. And like, if you're going to talk about dry technical stuff all the time, you need to at least be likable. I mean, if you're going to talk about dry technical stuff all the time and that's what you don't care how much engagement you get, cool, that's perfect. Do that. But if there's a couple of people come to mind who are always whining and complaining they don't get enough engagement, it's like, well, be more fucking interesting, dude.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I find have the hardest time connecting. Those who come to Bitcoin from the software side, I think, take longer to get it in the big picture than people who come from an econ side.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think if you have a good understanding of history too, that helps a lot. So I would say to anybody who is new, spend, if you're trying to figure out where to start to really dive in, go for the economics and monetary policy and history aspect of it before you start learning to code.
Because I always hear from the Ethereans in particular that, Bitcoin is boring, so we'd rather waste time doing fake science experiments over here in Ethereum land. And it's like, dude, Bitcoin is not boring. Bitcoin is a fucking cultural revolution. The fact that you can't see that lets me know that you're a dumb piece of shit, or that you have just no understanding of history. Because the fact, like, where we're at now, there's never been a fucking monetization event of a new global currency. Never. Fucking never has it happened, especially not spontaneously. That's a once in a forever occurrence. It may never happen again. Bitcoin may be the last money we ever use.
It's never happened before.
So for you to just be blasé about that, like, are you fucking retarded? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh, it's boring. It's not boring, you stupid fuck. None of us have ever seen a money evolve, and that's what's happening with Bitcoin. And it's like, being engaged in the conversation about how that evolution takes place and the order of operations for that evolution is the most mentally stimulating thing I've ever been a part of. And so when I hear people say it's boring, I just think they're stupid. I think they're at least 20 or 30 IQ points below me.
Yeah.
And I know I'm 20 or 30 IQ points, maybe probably more like 40 or 50 below the dudes who are working on the code level commits with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like a guy like Peter Woola or Nick Szabo or Peter Todd or fucking Luke Dash or whoever. Like I talked to these guys online, Adam Back. I didn't want to go up and talk to Adam Back at the conference I was at with him because I just didn't want to waste his time. Because I honestly don't like talking to people that are 30 or 40 IQ points above me because I just can see how bored they are of me. Yeah.
Yeah.
they're like, this guy is full on wasting my time. I got to talk to Ray Kurzweil one time for 10 minutes and I could just tell he was just like, oh, fucking this guy thinks he's smart.
I had that experience. I was at a dinner in January with was Stefan Rivera, Jimmy Song, Parker Lewis, and me. And it's like one of these things don't go with the other. And I'm used to being pretty intelligent, but I was in that group. I'm just like, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut and I'll listen.
That's the kind of group where I'm in, where I'll just wait for my one moment to say something. I'll be like, yeah, and also, have you thought about this? Right? So you can go home with something. You'd be like, yeah, definitely. They all took my point pretty well. It was good, man.
Yeah.
But I think this bleeds into another point, which is like, I feel bad for dumb people, honestly, because it's hard to know what smart people are up to when you're dumb. And it's hard to know the difference between Ethereum and BSV and XRP and Bitcoin when you're dumb.
Because it all seems like it's the same thing.
Yeah. It all seems like the same thing. And you're hearing things that are surface level that you can understand, like XRP is faster. It's faster. And you can take that away and be like, well, I'm a dumb piece of shit. And let me think, if you have a fast thing and a slow thing, which one would you like? I think I would like the fast one. Thank you very much. Whereas you don't realize like the high level, technical trade-off discussions, global monetary history, history of distributed systems, conversations that are going on surrounding Bitcoin by people who all have 150, 160 IQs. Like when Andrew Polster talks, I don't know what he's saying. I have to listen to it 3 or 4 times. And when I go back and listen to it and I catch those morsels that I do understand, I go, God, this guy is so fucking smart, so much smarter than I am. Like, it's so awesome to see that he is coalesced around this same project and working on the same things and interested and invested in the same way that I am. But if I was dumb, I would look at him and be like, oh no, man, is it fast? Mm-hmm. Is it fast?
Can you do more transactions? There's that effect of, they talk about tennis players who got to play against somebody who's better than you, and it's true of any sport, to get better. And I think there is that effect. Anybody who hasn't been to a Bitcoin conference yet, just being able to go to one of those and sit down with a bunch of people who are on the same page as you, interested in the things you're in, there's such a refreshing feeling to it. And you'll sit with people that are, are smarter than you, and you don't feel bad. You feel good that you're sitting with those people and you're getting to hear them.
Dude, I went out to the Unconfiscatable conference, and I ended up, at the blackjack tables with Jack Mahlers and Safety and Johnny Dilly until fucking 4 a.m. I had no conception of time. I was just having such a fucking great time talking about fucking economic and political theory and shit. Like, if you haven't been to a Bitcoin conference, and I hid in the dark for a long time, I didn't want to go to one because I was all like, oh, OPSEC, I can talk to myself, blah, blah, blah. Convinced myself it was a waste of time. And also I had that feeling of like, I don't want to be one of the stupid people in the room, right?
Yeah.
But when I finally convinced myself to go to one, I was like, oh, I'm not one of the stupid people in the room. Like, I belong here. I'm not as smart as some people, but like, this is fucking awesome. I get to talk to everybody who I want to talk to. Like, everybody's so cool. Everybody's so willing to engage. Everybody's interested in the same thing I'm interested in. It's awesome. Honestly, you should definitely go to a Bitcoin conference. If nothing else, just to go to the after parties and get drunk with everybody, because that's the most fun.
Yeah. I'm thinking of doing something at Bitcoin 2020 when they reschedule that. I'll tell you about it later. But I think it might be a fun event for everybody.
Totally.
All right, well, we're coming up on 2 hours. Flew by.
Yeah.
I'll give everybody, if you have one last question, anything like that. But I think we are going to wrap it up as long as nobody's got anything urgent to ask. But I would add to that, go to a conference. BitBlock Bloom is amazing. Gary does a really great job keeping a fantastic environment there. South Park or Rick and Morty? That's a good one to wrap it up with, I think.
Oh, Rick and Morty, 100%.
Yeah.
Although, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit unpopular here. I think Rick and Morty peaked at season 2, and we're on a slow and steady decline.
Yeah.
And I don't want to admit that to myself, but the first 2 seasons were way better than the current incarnations.
Should I play everyone the little Rick and Morty audio?
Oh yeah, do it.
Already. So you're gonna have to envision on this. It's Al drawn as Rick and Morty, but I recorded a little bit. This is possibly for a might do a having party. This is the promo I'll play it for everybody. Just close your eyes and imagine. Well, it's too quiet. I gotta crank up the volume. Hold on one second.
C137 Morty Al. It's the only one where Bitcoin
Damn it.
dominated instead of Nano, and the halving is coming up.
Well, I screwed that up technologically. I'll play it again in a second because I've got it on Telegram, which won't let me rewind. But
can I just say Rick and Morty is so fucking good though. I rewatch all the Rick and Morty's like over and over again repeatedly. When I was rewatching the pilot episode, it's like it's okay, just keep shooting, Morty. They're not real. And he's like my leg, Bob is dying, and he's like, I thought you said they weren't real. They're bureaucrats, Morty. I don't respect that.
Have you seen the transcript from the trial? I think it's in Georgia.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a fucking great one, dude. Yeah. If you guys haven't seen that one, Google it look it up on YouTube. It's so fucking funny. Somebody did a full color version of it, and they I don't know if you saw that one, but it's so fucking funny. Dude.
It's a transcript from an actual trial in real life, and there's this back and forth between the judge and the accused, and they do it as the voices of Rick and Morty. It's the actual voice of Rick and Morty, but everything they say is real from a real trial, and it's the defendant is just talking ridiculous shit to
Dude,
the judge.
he's like, would you suck my fucking balls? Would you suck my sweaty balls? Like, fucking, it's amazing.
Yeah,
I if they had put that 9-minute clip in an episode, even though the episode's only 22 minutes long, I would have watched that whole clip and just been like, this was the greatest episode ever.
Oh yeah. They should do it on Cartoon Network someday. All right, so I'm going to play this because it does mention you, but this is a kind of a rough draft of a promo, and then I think we're going to wrap it up after this. So hold on just 1 second. We'll play this here. All right, I don't know what the hell. I fucked that up.
You just, man, you suck, Al.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, here we go. Full volume. All right, I solved the problem.
What's going on, Grandpa Al? We're back in universe C137 Morty Al. It's the only one where Bitcoin dominated instead of Nano, and the halving is coming up. These pathetic losers celebrate it. Oh, they didn't have hyper-nanoization in this universe? That's so weird. It gets even stranger, Morty Al. In this universe, American Hodl is straight. What? I know. Can you even imagine?
Anyway, on that ridiculously technologically bad note,
that's
that was it was fun.
We all know.
So we're 2 hours in, so I think that's probably enough for all of us. But thank you so much for being on the show. This was a lot of fun. Come by again on Dirtbag Friday whenever you'd like. And that goes for anybody else listening.
Al thinks he's Conan O'Brien. BTC Cucumber says. You know what I appreciate about you, Al, is that you've let just the very small amount of recognition you have go immediately to your head.
I am a golden god.
I think it's hilarious.
Women want me, men want to be me.
All your jokes have gotten so meta to the point where I don't even know what's going on, and I don't question it. It's like looking at one of those fractal like patterns from the outside, you know? Just like, man, it goes on forever.
The further you look, the further it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for coming by. Thank you, American Hodl. This will be up on YouTube shortly, so if you want to tell a friend, would appreciate it. And once again, we do support the charity known as Bent Mortys for men who have Peyronie's disease. Look it up if you don't know it. If your Morty is bent, Bent Mortys is the organization for you. All right, thank you.
Wait, bro, are you saying Mortys or Martys?
Oh, now I said Mortys because we're talking about Rick and Morty. that was meant to be Marty's. Sorry. All right.
I gotta help Al. I gotta help Al through his own shtick.
Yeah, seriously. I'm not even good at being Al anymore. If I can't be Al, who can be? All right. Thanks very much, everybody.